The crystal ship drifted through space like a dying star. Its beautiful transparent hull, once glowing with soft blue light, now flickered with sparks and broken panels. Captain Veltar pressed his six-fingered hand against the cracked viewing window and watched the black ships closing in around them. The Korthax had found them. Veltar's people, the Zephyrians, were peaceful traders who traveled between worlds selling art and music. Their ships carried no weapons, only families and children heading to start new colonies. Now those same families huddled in the lower decks while enemy vessels surrounded them like hungry wolves. "Captain." "Our engines are dead," reported his first officer, her voice trembling through the ship's failing communication system. "The Korthax hit us with some kind of energy weapon. We cannot move." Veltar closed his large, dark eyes and tried to think. The Korthax were known throughout the galaxy as the worst kind of slavers. They captured peaceful species and forced them to fight in brutal arenas for entertainment. Those who survived became workers in their mines and factories. Children were taken and trained as soldiers. No one in the galaxy was strong enough to stop them. The enemy ships were massive and black, covered in sharp spikes that made them look like floating weapons. Each one was 3 times larger than the Zephyrian colony ship. Their hulls were painted with symbols that meant death and conquest in a dozen languages. "They are sending a message," his communications officer said, her voice barely a whisper. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the hideous face of a Korthak commander. The alien had gray skin covered in scars, small red eyes that glowed with cruelty, and teeth like broken glass. When he smiled, it was the expression of a predator about to feed. "Little crystal ship," the Korthak said in the common galactic language. "You will surrender now. Your people will make excellent slaves. Your children will become warriors for our empire. Resist and we will make your death slow and painful." Veltar's hand shook as he reached for the communication controls. "Please," he said, "we are just traders. We have families aboard, children. We mean no harm to anyone." The Korthak commander laughed, a sound like breaking bones. "Exactly what makes you perfect slaves. Peaceful species learn to obey quickly. You have 10 minutes to open your airlocks or we will cut through your hull and take what we want from the wreckage." The transmission ended, leaving Veltar staring at the empty hologram. Around him, his bridge crew looked at their captain with desperate hope, but he had no answers. Their weapons were tools for clearing space debris, useless against military vessels. Their shields were designed to protect against cosmic radiation, not plasma cannons. "Send a distress signal," Veltar ordered, knowing it was probably hopeless. "Broadcast on all frequencies. Maybe someone will hear us." His communications officer worked frantically at her station. "Signal sent, Captain. But there are no friendly ships in this sector. The Galactic Council forces are 3 days away, and the Korthax will not wait." The distress signal raced through space at the speed of light, carrying a simple message. "Help us. Peaceful colony ship under attack by Korthak slavers. Coordinates attached. Please, anyone who can hear this, help us." The signal reached the nearest inhabited systems, but the response was always the same. Other species received the message, felt pity for the Zephyrians, but did nothing. The Korthax were too powerful, too cruel. No one wanted to become their next target, but the signal traveled farther than anyone expected. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison was drinking his 3rd cup of coffee when the alien transmission came through the deep space monitoring station. He had been working the night shift at the Terran Defense Network headquarters in Colorado, listening to radio signals from distant stars. Most nights he heard nothing but cosmic background noise. Tonight was different. Jake sat up straight as the translation computer worked to decode the alien language. The message was full of terror and desperation, but it was also clear. Someone was calling for help. "Holy shit," Jake whispered, then caught himself using bad language at work. He had never heard an alien transmission before. No human had. Earth had been alone in the galaxy for as long as anyone could remember. Jake grabbed his phone and called Admiral Kate Sullivan, even though it was 3 in the morning. She answered on the second ring, sounding wide awake and alert. "Morrison, this better be important," she said. "Admiral, you need to get down here right now. We just received a distress signal from space." "It's not human." There was silence on the phone for a long moment. Then Sullivan said, "I'll be there in 20 minutes. Don't tell anyone else about this yet." Jake spent those 20 minutes playing the message over and over. Each time it made him angrier. Somewhere out there, innocent people were about to be enslaved or killed, and they were calling for help. The idea of ignoring their plea made his stomach turn. Admiral Sullivan arrived with her usual no-nonsense attitude. She was a small woman, with gray hair and sharp eyes, who had commanded fleets during the war with Mars. Everyone said she was the smartest military mind Earth had ever produced. She listened to the alien message 3 times without speaking. When it finished, she stood quietly for a full minute, thinking. "What do we know about these Korthax?" she finally asked. Jake pulled up the computer analysis. The translation AI picked up references from other parts of their transmission. "Sounds like there's some kind of military empire that conquers weaker species. The Zephyrians seem to be peaceful traders." Sullivan nodded slowly. "How far away?" "About 6 light years. If we left immediately with our fastest ships, we could be there in 4 days using the new hyperspace drives." "And how many ships do they have?" Jake checked the sensor data. "At least 12 large vessels surrounding one smaller ship. The small one appears to be damaged." Sullivan was quiet again, but Jake could see the wheels turning in her mind. Earth had spent 200 years building the most advanced military in human history. They had weapons and ships that most people could not even imagine. The question was whether humanity was ready to announce itself to the galaxy. Finally, Sullivan picked up Jake's phone and dialed a number from memory. "Mr. President," she said when someone answered. "We have a situation. I need authorization to launch the first contact fleet." "Yes, sir," I said. "First contact. There are aliens out there and they need our help." Jake watched as Admiral Sullivan explained the situation to the President of Earth. When she hung up, she was smiling for the first time since Jake had known her. "Morrison," she said, "how would you like to be part of humanity's first interstellar rescue mission?" Admiral Kate Sullivan stood in the command center watching the largest military mobilization in human history. On the giant screens around her, dozens of ships were emerging from hidden bases throughout the solar system. Humanity's secret fleet was finally coming into the light. The flagship of the fleet was the Indomitable, a massive ship 2 kilometers long and half a kilometer wide. Its dark gray hull was covered in weapon ports and armor plating thick enough to stop nuclear explosions. Captain Ryan Mitchell stood on its bridge, checking systems that had never been tested in real combat. Mitchell was a tough man with scars on his hands from fighting space pirates in the outer colonies. He had volunteered for the most dangerous missions for 15 years, and his crew trusted him completely. Now he was about to lead humanity's first contact with alien life, and he felt the weight of that responsibility. "All systems show green, Admiral," Mitchell reported over the communication link. "The Indomitable is ready for battle." "Good," Sullivan replied. "What about the rest of the fleet?" Around the flagship, 36 other ships were preparing for departure. There were heavy cruisers with railguns that could punch through asteroids, destroyers loaded with nuclear missiles, and assault carriers full of Marines. Each ship represented the best technology Earth had ever produced. Dr. Lisa Parker worked frantically in her laboratory aboard the command ship. As the fleet's xenobiologist, she had been given the job of analyzing everything they knew about alien life. The Zephyrian distress signal had provided her with the first samples of alien language and technology she had ever seen. "The Zephyrians appear to be a peaceful species," she reported to Admiral Sullivan. "Their ship design focuses on comfort and efficiency rather than weapons. But these Korthax are different. From what I can understand from their communications, they've been raiding this sector of space for decades." Lisa's analysis painted a disturbing picture. The Korthax seemed to be a military empire that survived by conquering weaker species. They took prisoners as slaves and stripped conquered worlds of their resources. Most alien species in this part of the galaxy lived in fear of Korthic raids. "How advanced are their weapons?" Sullivan asked. "Hard to say for certain, but their energy signatures suggest they're using plasma-based weapons and basic energy shields. Their technology appears to be maybe 50 years behind our current military standard." This news made Sullivan smile. Earth's weapons were designed to fight other humans who were clever and dangerous enemies. If the Korthax were using older technology, the human fleet would have a significant advantage. On the assault carrier Harbinger, Colonel Sam Rodriguez was preparing his Marines for their first alien combat mission. Rodriguez was a career soldier who had fought in every major conflict of the past 20 years. His men called him Iron Sam because nothing seemed to scare or stop him. "Listen up, Marines," Rodriguez shouted to the assembled troops. "We're about to make history. Somewhere out there, innocent aliens are being attacked by slavers. Our job is to stop those slavers and rescue the prisoners. The Marines were equipped with the best combat gear humanity had ever produced. Their power armor could stop bullets and shrapnel while boosting their strength and speed. Their plasma rifles could melt through starship hulls. Combat stimulants would let them fight for hours without getting tired. But Rodriguez knew that equipment was only part of what made his Marines dangerous. Humans had evolved on Earth, a world where everything was trying to kill everything else. His soldiers had reflexes and aggression that came from millions of years of surviving as predators. Remember, Rodriguez continued, we don't know exactly what these Korthaks look like or how they fight, but we do know they're bullies who pick on weaker species. Show them what happens when they mess with someone who can fight back. The Marines cheered, ready for battle. Navigator Amy Clark was plotting the fleet's course through space. The journey to the alien star system would take them through regions that no human had ever explored. Her computer showed 3 possible routes, each with different risks and travel times. The fastest route takes us through the Kepler system, she reported to Admiral Sullivan, but our long-range sensors are picking up debris fields there. Looks like recent battle damage. Korthak activity? Sullivan asked. Most likely. The debris patterns suggest orbital shipyards were destroyed, and there are no life signs on the planets below. Whatever happened there, it was thorough. Sullivan studied the navigation data. The evidence of Korthak attacks made her more determined to reach the Zephyrian ship in time. If the enemy was willing to destroy entire star systems, they would not hesitate to massacre peaceful traders. Chief Engineer Bob Martinez was making final checks on the fleet's experimental hyperspace drives. These engines could push ships through folded space at incredible speeds, but they had never been tested on such a large scale. If the drives failed during the journey, the fleet would be stranded between star systems. The fusion reactors are running at optimal efficiency, Martinez reported. All ships are showing green lights for hyperspace insertion. We should be able to maintain top speed for the entire journey. The hyperspace drives were one of Earth's most closely guarded secrets. Most human colonies still used slower-than-light travel, not knowing that the military had developed technology that could cross the galaxy in weeks instead of centuries. As the fleet prepared to depart, Sullivan reviewed their mission parameters one more time. Intelligence suggested they would face at least 12 Korthak vessels, probably more. The enemy ships were larger than most human vessels, but they appeared to rely on intimidation rather than advanced technology. All ships. This is Admiral Sullivan, she announced over the fleet communication network. We are about to undertake humanity's first interstellar rescue mission. Somewhere out there, innocent beings are calling for help, and we are going to answer that call. She paused, looking at the displays showing 37 human warships ready for battle. For 200 years, humanity has been preparing for this moment. We have built the finest fleet in our history. We have trained the best soldiers our species has ever produced. Today we find out if that preparation was enough. The hyperspace drives began to charge, filling space around the fleet with crackling energy. One by one, the ships started to disappear into folded space, beginning their journey toward first contact. Remember, Sullivan said as her own ship prepared to jump, we are not just representing Earth today. We are representing the idea that innocent people deserve protection, no matter what species they belong to. Make humanity proud. The last human ship vanished into hyperspace, leaving the solar system quiet once again. But the silence would not last long. In 4 days, the galaxy would learn that humans existed, and that they were very, very dangerous. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Altair system, like wolves emerging from the darkness. Admiral Sullivan stood on the bridge of her command ship, watching the tactical displays update with new information. What she saw made her jaw clench with anger. The Zephyrian colony ship was barely alive. Its beautiful crystal hull was cracked and bleeding atmosphere into space. 12 massive Korthak vessels surrounded the helpless trader like vultures around a dying animal. Smaller Korthak shuttles were already attached to the alien ship's hull, cutting through the airlock doors. Time until complete boarding? Sullivan asked her tactical officer. At their current rate, maybe 40 minutes, came the reply. They're taking their time, probably enjoying the terror they're causing. Captain Ryan Mitchell's voice crackled over the communication system from the Indomitable. Admiral, request permission to engage immediately. We can be in weapons range in 20 minutes if we push the engines. Sullivan considered the direct approach, but something made her hesitate. This was humanity's first contact with alien life, and they needed to understand exactly what they were dealing with. A mistake here could mean war with species they knew nothing about. Negative, Captain. I want intelligence first. Hughes, are you ready? Commander Tony Hughes smiled grimly from the bridge of his stealth frigate Ghost Rider. His ship was humanity's most advanced reconnaissance vessel, equipped with adaptive camouflage that could make it nearly invisible to most sensors. Hughes had spent years sneaking up on pirates and smugglers in the outer colonies. Now he would use those same skills on aliens. Ready to go hunting, Admiral, Hughes replied. Give me 30 minutes and I'll tell you everything you want to know about our new friends. The Ghost Rider separated from the main fleet and began its approach toward the enemy formation. Its hull shifted color and texture to match the surrounding space, while its engines ran in silent mode to avoid detection. To any observer, the ship simply disappeared. Hughes guided his vessel through the asteroid field surrounding Altair, using the floating rocks as cover. His crew worked quietly at their stations, gathering electronic intelligence on Korthak technology and communications. What they discovered was both encouraging and disturbing. Their sensors are primitive, reported his electronics officer. We could fly right through their formation and they probably wouldn't notice us. Their ships are big and intimidating, but they're not very sophisticated. What about their weapons? Hughes asked. Plasma cannons mostly. High energy output but slow firing rate. Their targeting systems appear to be manual, rather than computer-assisted. No sign of nuclear weapons or kinetic projectiles. Hughes nodded, making mental notes for his report. The Korthaks seemed to rely on fear and overwhelming size rather than advanced technology. That would be their downfall when they met humans who didn't scare easily. The Ghost Rider moved closer to the Korthak flagship, a massive black vessel covered in spikes and weapon ports. Hughes could see through the enemy ship's transparent sections, where Korthak warriors moved around in what appeared to be command centers. Sir, I'm picking up their internal communications, his communications officer whispered. The translation computer is working on their language, but I can understand some of it already. The Korthaks were indeed discussing their current raid. From what the humans could understand, this was routine for them. They had been attacking peaceful species in this sector for generations, taking whatever they wanted without fear of retaliation. The idea that someone might fight back had never occurred to them. They're calling this an easy harvest, the communications officer reported. Apparently the Zephyrians are considered a high-value species because they're naturally artistic and make good entertainers for Korthak nobles. Hughes felt his anger growing. These aliens were talking about enslaving an entire ship full of families like they were discussing livestock. The casual cruelty in their voices made him want to start shooting immediately, but he had a job to do. The Ghost Rider spent another 20 minutes gathering intelligence before returning to the main fleet. Hughes's report painted a clear picture of what humanity was facing. A militaristic empire that had grown soft and overconfident from decades of bullying weaker species. They have 12 ships, Hughes reported to Admiral Sullivan. The flagship is about 3 kilometers long, with maybe 1,000 crew members. The smaller ships are escorts, probably 500 crew each. Total enemy force is around 7,000 individuals. Weapons assessment? Sullivan asked. Outdated by our standards. Their biggest plasma cannons might threaten our lighter ships, but nothing that could seriously damage a heavy cruiser. Their shields appear to be basic energy barriers, no kinetic protection. Dr. Lisa Parker had been analyzing the Korthak communications that Hughes recorded. Her translation of their conversations revealed the enemy's psychology and tactics. What she found was disturbing but also encouraging. They're overconfident to the point of arrogance, as she reported. Their communications show they consider themselves the apex predators of this region. No species has ever successfully resisted them, so they don't bother with complex tactics or advanced technology. That's about to change, Sullivan said grimly. She opened a communication channel to the entire human fleet. Every captain and crew member would hear what came next, because this moment would be remembered as the beginning of humanity's role in galactic affairs. All ships, this is Admiral Sullivan. We are about to make first contact with alien life. Unfortunately, our first meeting will be with slavers and murderers who are currently attacking innocent civilians. We will respond as humanity always responds to bullies, with overwhelming force and absolute determination. She paused, looking at the tactical display showing the Korthak ships continuing their raid. In a few minutes, I will offer these Korthaks a chance to surrender and release their prisoners. Based on their psychology profile, they will refuse. When they do, we will show them why Earth is called a death world, and why humans are the most dangerous predators our planet ever produced. The fleet moved into attack formation, with the Indomitable leading the charge. Heavy cruisers spread out to provide covering fire, while destroyers prepared their missile systems. The assault carriers moved to the rear, ready to launch marine boarding parties once the enemy ships were disabled. Admiral Sullivan sent one final message to the Korthak fleet commander. She had decided that humanity's first words to alien life should be simple and clear. Attention Korthak vessels. This is Admiral Kate Sullivan of the Terran Defense Fleet. You are attacking innocent civilians. Release the Zephyrian ship immediately and withdraw from this system, or face the consequences. This is your only warning. The response came quickly. The Korthak commander's image appeared on Sullivan's communication screen, showing a scarred alien face twisted with amusement and contempt. When he spoke, his voice was full of the arrogance that came from centuries of unchallenged domination. Unknown ship, you will identify yourselves and submit to boarding, or you will be destroyed. Your vessels will make fine additions to our fleet, and your crew will serve the Korthak Dominion as slaves. Admiral Sullivan smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. It was the smile of a predator who had just been threatened by prey. Wrong answer, she said, and gave the order that would change galactic history forever. All ships, engage the enemy. Show them what happens when you threaten human lives. The Battle of Altair began when the Korthaks opened fire with their plasma cannons, expecting to see the unknown ships crumble under their assault. Instead, they watched in shock as bright energy beams splashed harmlessly against shields that glowed but did not break. The human fleet absorbed the alien attack like it was nothing more than a light show. Captain Ryan Mitchell stood calmly on the bridge of the Indomitable as enemy fire washed over his ship's defenses. Around him, his crew worked with the precision of a machine, preparing to demonstrate why human military technology was the most advanced in the galaxy. Shields holding at 98%, his tactical officer reported. Enemy weapons are having minimal effect. Return fire, Mitchell ordered. Show them what a real weapon looks like. The Indomitable's main railgun swiveled toward the largest Korthak vessel. The weapon was a marvel of human engineering, capable of accelerating a tungsten projectile to 12% of light speed using magnetic fields. When it fired, the projectile became a relativistic bullet that could punch through almost any known material. The tungsten slug hit the Korthak flagship's shields and tore through them like they were made of paper. It continued into the ship's hull, punching a hole completely through the massive vessel before slamming into the ship behind it. The second ship exploded in a ball of plasma as its reactor core was breached. Debris from both ships scattered across space like deadly confetti. Admiral Grakthul, the Korthak fleet commander, stared at his tactical display in disbelief. 2 of his ships had been destroyed by a single shot from an enemy vessel, half the size of his flagship. This was impossible. No species in the galaxy possessed weapons that powerful. All ships concentrate fire on the enemy flagship, he roared into his communication system. Destroy them before they can fire again. 6 Korthak vessels turned their weapons toward the Indomitable, filling space with plasma bolts and energy beams. The human dreadnought's shields flared as they absorbed the incoming fire, but they held firm. Mitchell's ship had been designed to fight entire fleets, and the Korthak weapons were simply not powerful enough to threaten it. Enemy ships are clustering together, observed Mitchell's tactical officer. They're making themselves a perfect target for our missile destroyers. Signal the thunder and lightning, Mitchell replied. Tell them to give our new friends a demonstration of human missile technology. The destroyers Thunder and Lightning opened their missile bays and launched a swarm of nuclear-tipped torpedoes. Each missile was equipped with an artificial intelligence that could track and pursue targets through evasive maneuvers. The Korthaks had never seen anything like them. 40 missiles raced through space toward the enemy formation, their engines leaving bright trails behind them. The Korthak ships tried to shoot them down with defensive fire, but the missiles were too fast and too smart. They dodged around plasma bolts and energy beams like living creatures, each one hunting for its assigned target. The nuclear explosions lit up space like a chain of artificial suns. 3 Korthak vessels simply vanished in the atomic fire, while 2 more were left drifting with their hulls cracked and their systems failing. In less than 5 minutes, the human fleet had destroyed half of the enemy force without taking any significant damage. This is impossible, Grakthul screamed at his surviving ship captains. No species has weapons like this. Where did these humans come from? But there was no time to find answers. The human assault carriers Harbinger and Vengeance were already launching boarding pods filled with Marines. Colonel Sam Rodriguez led the assault personally, riding in the first pod to slam into the Korthak flagship's hull. The boarding pod used shaped charges to blast through the enemy ship's armor, creating a hole large enough for Marines to pour through. Rodriguez was the first human to set foot on an alien vessel, and he did it while carrying a plasma rifle and wearing full combat armor. The Korthak warriors waiting inside their ship got their first look at human soldiers, and what they saw terrified them. The humans were shorter than most Korthaks, but they moved with the deadly grace of natural predators. Their armor made them look like mechanical demons, and their weapons cut through alien defenders like they were made of cardboard. Rodriguez's combat stimulants had kicked in, making him faster and stronger than any normal human. He moved through the enemy corridor like a force of nature, his plasma rifle burning through Korthak warriors while his armor shrugged off their return fire. Behind him, his Marines spread out to secure the ship's vital systems. "This is Rodriguez to all Marine units," he said into his communication system. "The aliens are tough but slow. Their weapons can't penetrate our armor. Push forward and secure the bridge." The battle inside the Korthak flagship was brutal but brief. The alien warriors had size and numbers, but they had evolved on a world much gentler than Earth. They had never faced an enemy that moved as fast as humans or fought with such deadly efficiency. Within 20 minutes, Rodriguez and his Marines had captured the bridge and taken Admiral Grakthul prisoner. Meanwhile, Commander Tony Hughes had used his stealth ship to rescue the Zephyrian colonists. The Ghost Rider attached itself to the damaged alien vessel, while Hughes's crew worked to stabilize the ship's life support systems. It was humanity's first act of interstellar diplomacy, and Hughes wanted to make sure it went perfectly. "Easy does it," Hughes told his rescue teams as they entered the Zephyrian ship. "These people have been through hell. Let's show them that humans are the good guys." Captain Veltar was unconscious when the human rescue teams found him, but his crew was awake and terrified. They had never seen anything like human soldiers before, and the power armor made the rescuers look like robotic warriors. It took several minutes for the humans to convince the Zephyrians that they were there to help. Dr. Lisa Parker, working from the human command ship, helped establish communication with the rescued aliens. Her translation programs quickly learned the Zephyrian language, allowing the two species to speak directly for the first time. "You came," Veltar whispered when he regained consciousness and saw the human medics treating his injuries. "We called for help and you came." "That's what we do," Hughes replied through the translation system. "When innocent people are in trouble, humans help. It's who we are." The last Korthak ships tried to escape when they realized the battle was lost, but the human fleet was faster and more maneuverable. The remaining enemy vessels were quickly surrounded and forced to surrender. In less than an hour, a Korthak raiding fleet that had terrorized this sector for decades had been completely destroyed or captured. Admiral Sullivan stood on her bridge, watching the tactical display show the battle's aftermath. 12 Korthak ships had been reduced to 6 destroyed vessels and 6 prisoners. The human fleet had not lost a single ship, and only a handful of Marines had been injured during the boarding actions. But the real victory was not military. It was the moment when Captain Veltar, speaking for all the rescued Zephyrians, sent a message that would be heard across the galaxy. "To all species who receive this transmission," Veltar said, his voice filled with hope for the first time in days, "know that there is a new power among the stars. The humans have come and they stand with those who cannot defend themselves. The age of the strong preying upon the weak is ending." Admiral Sullivan opened a communication channel that would broadcast on every frequency the human ships could reach. Her message was simple, but it would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. "This is Admiral Kate Sullivan of the Terran Defense Fleet. We have received your call for help and answered it. Let it be known throughout this galaxy that humanity stands guard against those who would harm the innocent. Any species that preys upon the weak will answer to us." The Battle of Altair was over, but the war for galactic freedom had just begun. News of the Battle of Altair spread across the galaxy faster than the speed of light. Every listening post, every space station, every planetary communication center received the same impossible report. An unknown species had completely destroyed a Korthak raiding fleet without losing a single ship. The implications sent shockwaves through every major civilization. On the Galactic Council's central world, emergency sessions were called as representatives from dozens of species tried to understand what had happened. The Council was a loose organization of peaceful races that had spent centuries hiding from aggressive empires like the Korthax. Now they faced the possibility that an even more powerful military force had entered their region of space. The reports must be wrong, insisted Councillor Thex, whose people had been paying tribute to the Korthax for 50 years. No fleet could destroy Admiral Grachthel's ship so easily. The Korthax have ruled this sector for generations, but the evidence was undeniable. Multiple sensor readings from different star systems confirmed the same story. 12 Korthak vessels had entered the Altair system and engaged an unknown fleet. Within an hour, half the Korthak ships were destroyed and the rest had surrendered. The mysterious attackers had identified themselves as humans from something called the Terran Defense Fleet. Captain Veltar had become the galaxy's most important witness. His testimony about the human rescue reached every major world within days, carried by the fastest communication networks available. The Zephyrian captain spoke of soldiers who fought like demons but treated prisoners with kindness, of weapons that could destroy starships with single shots, and of a species that had traveled across space to help strangers. They saved us, Veltar told the Council representatives via subspace communication. When no one else would help, when everyone was too afraid of the Korthax, the humans came. They asked for nothing in return. They simply said it was their duty to protect the innocent. Dr. Lisa Parker was working around the clock to establish proper diplomatic relations with the rescued Zephyrians. Her xenobiology laboratory had become the center of humanity's first cultural exchange program. Every day brought new discoveries about alien psychology, technology, and society. The Zephyrians are natural artists and musicians, she reported to Admiral Sullivan. Their entire civilization is built around creating beauty and sharing it with other species. The idea of violence is so foreign to them that they don't even have words for some of our military terms. Through Veltar and his crew, the humans learned about the larger galactic community. There were hundreds of intelligent species scattered across thousands of worlds, most of them peaceful traders and explorers like the Zephyrians. But there were also predator races like the Korthax who survived by conquering and enslaving weaker civilizations. The galaxy has no unified military, Veltar explained during one of his meetings with human diplomats. Each species defends itself as best it can, but most are too weak to resist the major powers. The Korthax, the hegemony, the blood fleets, they take what they want because no one can stop them. This information troubled Admiral Sullivan greatly. She had hoped that the Battle of Altair would be a one-time intervention, but it was becoming clear that the galaxy's problems were much larger than a single raiding fleet. Back on Earth, the government was making decisions that would reshape human civilization. President Johnson had called an emergency session of the Global Council to discuss humanity's new role among the stars. The debate was intense, but the conclusion was inevitable. We cannot ignore what we've learned, President Johnson announced to the assembled representatives. There are billions of innocent beings out there living in fear of species like the Korthax. We have the power to help them, which means we have the responsibility to help them. The decision was made to establish humanity as the galaxy's peacekeeping force. Construction began immediately on massive orbital shipyards that would produce the largest fleet in galactic history. Every human colony world would contribute ships, soldiers, and resources to the effort. Admiral Sullivan received her new orders via secure communication from Earth Command. Humanity would no longer hide among the stars. They would become the galaxy's protectors, using their advanced technology and military expertise to ensure that peaceful species could live without fear. Your mission has expanded, Admiral, the message read. Establish permanent human presence in this sector. Build alliances with peaceful species. Hunt down any aggressive forces that prey upon the innocent. Show the galaxy what human justice looks like. The first step was establishing a base of operations. The Zephyrian colony that had been rescued became humanity's first protectorate, defended by orbital weapons platforms and a permanent fleet garrison. Captain Veltar volunteered to serve as an ambassador, helping other species understand that humans were protectors rather than conquerors. Captain Ryan Mitchell found himself commanding not just a single ship, but an entire sector defense force. His orders were simple: patrol the nearby star systems and respond to any distress calls with overwhelming force. The Indomitable became the symbol of human protection, its distinctive silhouette bringing hope to merchant ships and terror to pirates. Colonel Sam Rodriguez established the first human marine training center on an asteroid near the Altair system. His job was to prepare soldiers for combat against dozens of different alien species, each with their own fighting styles and biological advantages. The Marines would need to be ready for anything. Remember, Rodriguez told his new recruits, we're not just fighting for Earth anymore. We're fighting for every innocent being in the galaxy who can't defend themselves. That's a big responsibility, but it's also an honor. Dr. Lisa Parker's research station grew into a major diplomatic center, where representatives from peaceful species could meet with human officials. Her work in understanding alien cultures became the foundation for humanity's foreign policy among the stars. The Korthak prisoners from the Battle of Altair provided valuable intelligence about other aggressive empires. Under questioning, they revealed the locations of slave markets, pirate bases, and military installations. This information would guide human military operations for years to come. But the real change came in how the galaxy's peaceful species viewed their situation. For the first time in generations, they had hope. Trade routes that had been abandoned due to pirate attacks were reopened under human protection. Colonies that had paid tribute to aggressive empires stopped their payments and called for human assistance. The Korthak Dominion itself was thrown into chaos by the loss of Admiral Grakthul's fleet. Other Korthak commanders demanded to know how their most experienced admiral had been defeated so easily. Some wanted revenge against the humans, while others suggested avoiding human space entirely. Captain Mitchell stood on the bridge of the Indomitable 6 months after the Battle of Altair, watching a convoy of merchant ships pass safely through what had once been Korthak hunting grounds. The ships belonged to a dozen different species, all flying under the protection of the Terran Defense Fleet. Signal coming in from the convoy lead ship. His communications officer reported, "They're thanking us for the safe passage and asking if we need any supplies." Mitchell smiled. This was what victory looked like, not destroyed enemies but protected friends. The galaxy was learning that humans could be trusted to keep their word. Admiral Sullivan received regular reports from Earth about the massive military buildup taking place throughout human space. Hundreds of new ships were under construction. Thousands of Marines were being trained, and the most advanced weapons ever created were being deployed to protect alien worlds. But the most important message came from Captain Veltar, who had become humanity's first alien friend and strongest supporter. "Admiral," he said during their weekly communication, "I want you to know what you have accomplished. For the first time in my people's history, we sleep peacefully knowing that someone is watching over us. You have given us something we never thought possible, a future without fear." As Sullivan looked out at the stars from her command ship, she knew that humanity had found its true purpose among the galaxies. They would stand guard against the darkness, protecting those who could not protect themselves. The age of predators ruling through fear had ended. The age of human protection had begun.